everybody. Pete, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jeremy.
Welcome to 2025.
How quickly it came around.
Oh my God, they do too quickly, I don't know. Anyway, I hope you had a wonderful Christmas. Happy New Year, and welcome back to the Court of Public Opinion for 2025. And the new look posting and podcast. So there's a slightly different aspect of the garage where we are. So we're posting every Tuesday from this week with a new show posted at 9 o'clock every Tuesday morning. And I hope you'll be there, and if you're watching it on Facebook, wonderful, or catching up with a podcast of it, just the audio of it somewhere, bless you. Where do we start? Peter Dutton launched the Liberals campaign in Melbourne on the weekend. Well, it's logical, I suppose. It's logical. I mean, the place that he picked, thanks to the Labor governments of Jacinta Allen and Chairman Dan Andrews. The people of Victoria are, at a state level, going to throw this lot under the nearest bus. And Peter Dutton reckons that he can get some benefit from that at a federal level. The people of Victoria have seen up close and personal what these people are into. Lots of seats to be won in Victoria. I don't know how they lost them in the first place, but there you go. I'm not an expert on Victorian politics or politics at all. But really, the campaign message should be pretty simple. It should be the proof of the pudding's in the eating. Labor is somewhere between disappointment and disaster. It's the economy, stupid, as Bill Clinton said. It's the economy, stupid. We are all demonstrably worse off under Albanese's Labor government. That's the truth. It's that simple. And it's all their own ideological fault. The woke, the welcome to country, the three flags instead of one, and a united nation that we all want. Ignorance and arrogance. Victorian and federal Labor are a done deal, I think. Cooked goose, dead duck. That's my prediction. Anyway, but they'll spend millions trying to make their case. God bless them. I mean, it's a whole industry, isn't it, really? It employs a lot of people. Dutton, I think, needs to outline a vision, however. His vision for the future. And I'm not sure he's done that yet. God, I hope he's got one. Here's mine. I mean, you might like to ring me when we get back on the air around the dining room table. Tell me what yours is. I reckon we need an open, proud society. Free from political correctness, no more woke, or ideological nonsense for no purpose, and at great expense. A razor gang to stop government waste and duplication. Real tax reform. How's that for an idea? Real tax reform. Put incentive back in the system. Better protection for our borders. One Australia under one flag. An independent but non-political ABC. God, I'd love to see that. One rule for politicians and the general public when it comes to things like, well, retirement and superannuation, for example. No more cushy diplomatic jobs for the boys. Perhaps an insistence that a minister must have some knowledge of his or her portfolio? Oh, that could be revolutionary. A requirement that the Liberal Party will ask candidates to have had some work or real life experience, not just being a party apparatchik, before coming to government. And I hasten to add, to be fair, that almost no one on the Labor front bench has ever had a real job. This should stop. Why would we vote for incompetence and inexperience? Democracy. I don't know what I can say about the fires in Los Angeles. I'd like to say something. The power and indiscriminate force of nature is truly awesome. A great tragedy, given of course that this is the work of nature and not an arsonist. The destruction is on the most shocking scale. When nature unleashes something like this, there is nothing that anyone can do. I saw it here, just 100 yards from where I'm talking to you, back in 1984. It's a miracle that this whole place didn't go up. We saw it in 1984, and we will see it again. I don't know when, but it's out there. Very quietly over the weekend, there was a significant anniversary. Certainly not recognized in China, let alone celebrated. It's 5 years since the first infection and death caused by COVID. A 61-year-old man became the first victim of COVID-19 when he entered a fish market in Wuhan, China. The virus was to go on to kill more than 7 million people worldwide. It's been a very strange 5 years. The rumours spread faster than the virus. Panic, yes. Then the pandemic word. But not the word China. People, very careful not to say that too loudly. Funny. We never worried about describing the Spanish flu as Spanish flu, which you might remember killed 20 million people worldwide. That's more than the Great War, 1418 First World War. But if you attribute the origins of COVID to its source, there is a huge trade and diplomatic response, repercussions, trade sanctions, which of course all goes to add to the cost of the pandemic. Anyway, I can't find anyone today who really takes COVID seriously. It's just like the flu. Pete, what do you think of COVID now?
Well, I don't sort of take it into consideration, really.
No, I don't either. It's just gone through and back into the...
Well, I never got it, fortunately.
No, well, I did, but I took the antivirals and it was gone in a couple of days. But did we overreact? Did we panic? Yes. The government, probably the most panicked. 7 million deaths is pretty serious, however. Perhaps every few years, nature has to figure out a way to dispassionately get rid of a few of us. You know, your thoughts? Friday, the Friday show will be back, jeremycordeaux.com, live streaming from around the dining room table, interesting guests, and of course news, views and current affairs, and your calls on the public opinion hotline, which I remind you of, 0491 65 68 60. And the show here in the garage, brought to you by Elders Fine Art Gallery in North Adelaide, and of course the Rising Sun down there at Kensington. Now we'll tell you more about those lovely people as the days go by. I see the South Australian government is offering $5,000 subsidies to encourage people to install solar panels. Now, in my opinion, and you can disagree with me, absolutely, I think the whole thing's a con. The feds are providing rebates to slow inflation because of the ridiculously high electricity prices caused by Labor's renewable energies policy. But they're all temporary. The rebates, the subsidies, and we pay for them anyway. And they will be gone. This is all in preparation, of course, for the upcoming election, trying, hopefully, to get the Reserve Bank to knock down the interest rates, maybe. Anyway, we're going to be left with huge bills. The solar panels have a life of only 25 years. The wind turbines even less. It's a con, top to bottom. All of this to fix a problem that doesn't even exist. True, Australia's contribution, less than 1.3% to global emissions. Nothing. Nothing. But we're turning our world and our families upside down. We make no difference. We've talked about it before, and now it's happened. Strata title managers all over Australia are starting to ban the charging of electric vehicles and hybrids in undercover car parks. Now, this is going to happen more and more. It's not an imagined or theoretical risk. It's an obvious danger, and one which should be, has to be, addressed. Insurance companies will make it prohibitively expensive to allow the recharging of EVs in car parks of apartments. If the strata managers don't do it, they will. Next will be a ban in private homes. Or the insurance premiums will go up, and if they find that you've had a fire because of an EV event under your roof, you're not covered. Check your policy. Also, public EV charging stations. Oh God, we could talk about that. Right across this nation, they are not being maintained. In fact, they're being vandalized, leaving these poor, naive, idealistic motorists stranded with cars that have no resale value, despite the hype and government subsidies. This could be the final nail in the EV coffin. But they're still smiling and putting on a brave face. But just remember, it is this government's policies and our money that's funding this nonsense. I want to talk to you about kids brawling in shopping centres. Peter Clayton, have you seen some of this footage on television where citizen journalists have recorded feral kids in shopping centres?
Well, I still say it's imported violence, but that's my opinion.
Well, there is certainly a bit of that. Kids brawling in shopping centres. If you watch TV news, you would know exactly what we're talking about. It's got to stop. A middle-aged woman who intervened to break up a vicious brawl, well, that was terrific. At her own risk. But this happens over and over again. Let's get to the cause instead of trying to treat the effect. Feral children and wayward, absent parents. And this goes for the African gangs as well. That happens here in Adelaide, but I know it certainly happens in Melbourne. It's happening everywhere. Parents are being made to be accountable for their children's behaviour. A great idea. A great idea. Not only accountable, but to the point where some have been put in jail. In fact, the kids present this kind of revolving door policy. You know, they're arrested, they go to trial or to the magistrate's court, they're given bail. It's an absolute joke. Some of them have been given bail 50 times. And they go right back on the streets and offend again. Clearly not working, but we just keep on doing the same thing. Time for governments to see the writing on the wall. I see that the South Australian government is going to, and I think it was Frank Pengello's initiative, dear friend of mine and member of the upper house, my former producer from years ago. The South Australian government will be putting defibrillators in theatres, shopping centres, mandatory, everyone has to do it. Libraries, all public areas, public transport, every tram, bus and train. They'll be virtually on every street corner. Now, this will cost billions. You know what I often say about, the road to hell being paved with good intentions. But again, I say to you, what is the problem that we're trying to fix? Any feel-good reason to spend public money. Now look, it's a nice idea. It's a great idea. Precautionary. But is it necessary? What is the cost-benefit analysis that should be applied to such a piece of legislation? I'm sorry, Frank, I don't know whether you did that. I don't know whether there is any cost-benefit analysis. 0.6% of the Australian population are at risk of heart failure, coronary occlusion. 0.6%. You end up with millions of defibrillators, and hardly anyone would know how to use one properly or safely if the need arose. I wouldn't know. Pete, would you know how to do that? I would have no idea. I've seen it in hospitals where they say, they've got the paddles up and they say, stand clear. I would have no idea. Who would? If you disagree with me, call me Friday the 7th of February when we'll be back around the dining room table live streaming jeremycordeaux.com. I look forward to that. Speaking of your health, have a look at this. I want to show you this. It's a bit of fun. I hope I won't get into trouble. This is one of those amazing weight loss drugs. Now, I'm not knocking this because I think obesity is one of the great problems we have on the face of this globe at the moment. We have to do something about collectively losing weight. I mean, I'm doing my bit. This is Monjaro, so I'm not knocking the product in any way. But it's a fairly big box. And if you open the box, you'd expect to see something occupying a fair amount of that space, wouldn't you? You've heard of this sort of shrinkflation thing where the box is a lot bigger than the contents. Well, that is the contents. And you know what the rest of the box is taken up with? This tightly wrapped manuscript, which I have previously, prior to meeting with you today, unwrapped, taken it out to show you. Now, would you look at this? That's what's in the box. That's why the box is so big. Now, would you look at that? Tightly packed script. Front and back. I mean, this is a bed sheet. It's sort of disclaimers and product information and get out of jail stuff. I mean, I'm just amazed that they could actually fit this in. Fit this into the box along with the medication. I mean, instructions for the patient, that's one thing, but this is amazing. I mean, that's worthy of an Arts Council award, isn't it? And you couldn't read it. You'd need a scientific degree in something to be able to fight your way through it. A pith helmet and a week's provisions and a cane knife to hack your way. Extraordinary stuff. Anyway, I wanted to show you that because I thought it was funny. And as I say, I'm not knocking the product. I think it's a fantastic product, but the point is they've got to jump through these hoops because of the regulators and the stupid laws that seem to control everything that we do. I don't know. Let me talk to you about the NDIS. The NDIS, which already costs more than the aged pension and the Defence Department, imagine that, more than we spend on the defence of this country. It has been given an extra $1 billion a year. This is on the top of the $43 billion that it gets at the moment. This is to cover the cost of hiring an extra 1,000 people to crack down on fraud. This is a nightmare. The NDIS already employs 400,000 people. Still no means test. You can be a multi-billionaire and plug into the NDIS. No attempt to control costs. I don't know what it is. I think it's 140,000 providers and 1,100 of them or something like that are authorised. Why would you get to be a provider if you hadn't been checked out by the government? Oh, no time. You got 400,000 people to do all this stuff. Huh? But you need another $1 billion to control fraud. On this and other things, Labor, I'm sorry, you're a disgrace. When you look back at the founding fathers of the Labor Party going way, way back, because it's the oldest political organisation in the whole country, I think they would find this disgraceful. I really do. Speaking of the NDIS, you may have seen the very expensive, comprehensive ads on TV for Save the Children. Save the children. We all want to save the children. The personal endorsement is one of Matt Tinkler, who is the CEO. Look him up. Very presentable, good presenter. Before Save the Children, Matt was the Chief of Staff to Bill Shorten, overseeing charity and not-for-profit and disability reform. A major player in the creation of the NDIS, the greatest rort in social security history in this country, with the potential to send us bankrupt. As Bill Shorten said himself, the NDIS is in the hands of criminals. But who allowed that to happen? The architects of the NDIS. But back to Mr. Tinkler. One of his big Save the Children campaigns is for the financial relief of Yemen. Yemen. I mean, you'll see these ads. I don't know whether the TV stations run them for free or they're being paid for, or they're at a discount, or they're part of the television station's responsibility to do community service. I don't know, but you'll see them everywhere. Financial relief for Yemen. I fear how many children may die if we cannot get them relief. I think that's an accurate quote from the director of Save the Children. Yemen is a country in total chaos. Famine. Yes, starving children and a population committed to war and hatred. No money for food, always money for explosives, missiles, and a new AK-47. Never a shortage of AK-47s. A murderous, misogynist bunch of pirates. These are the people who govern up and down the Red Sea, stealing, hijacking ships, killing people. This guy wants our money to support this regime. Give me a break. And by the way, what is the head of Save the Children paid, the CEO? No one will tell me. Maybe if you know, you might contact me and let me know. Anyway, it's interesting, isn't it? Speaking of wasting money, it's been announced that this Labor government has wasted $450,000 on welcome to country ceremonies at Australian government events. What a rort. When the government knows that these ceremonies have no historical validity, legitimacy or significance, just ask Ernie Dingo. He's the guy who made it all up. And the government's response? These ceremonies have been going on for generations and we embrace them. Number one, wrong. We're talking 1974. Number two, do you and the Prime Minister think that time makes a total fraud right or legitimate? The longer it's been going on, the better? Is that the story? They'll make it legitimate. They're trying to. I guess that's the spin they'll eventually put on the NDIS. And how about the $75,000 ex gratia payment per person to survivors of the stolen generation? Under this scheme, no one wants to tell me what the total amount handed over was. They closed off the scheme in 2023 because people just kept coming forward with their hand out. Couldn't be afforded. Even they said it couldn't be afforded. Simple question. What was the total amount and who and how many qualified to take the money? Can't answer? Don't want to answer? And while I was digging around, I discovered something interesting. You might be able to shed some light on it, but I was surprised. I didn't know. Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders do not need to pay income tax or capital gains tax. What? How can you have one tax law for Aboriginals and another tax law for non-Aboriginals? That's apartheid. But then again, these people were for the voice. This is what they were all about. Discrimination, pure and simple. No wonder there are three flags, a symbol of exactly what these guys are up to. Two separate or three separate countries. Two that are privileged and the other to support and fund the privileged. Is anyone going to vote for that? Think about it. Pete, I don't know, our new program, which is only once a week, how much longer can we go?
As long as you like.
As long as I like?
Yes.
Oh, you shouldn't have said that.
Well, until the battery runs out.
All right, well, all right, okay, keep your eye on the blinking battery. Let's talk about waste. Pete tells me the battery stopped. So we'll have to do an edit. We don't do edits in this show. We just do it straight, mistakes and all. Not a problem. What were we talking about, Pete? Waste. Oh, you want to talk about waste? How about the birthday party thrown by CBUS, the superannuation fund owned by the unions, the construction unions, importantly the infamous CFMEU. Pete, how much do you reckon a birthday party for the CBUS super fund?
Well, I have no idea, but I expect it's a lot.
Well, it's eye-watering to be truthful. $700,000. This is for an afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. A birthday party. Were the members of the CBUS Super Fund consulted before the money was spent. It's nearly $1 million for a party. But then again, if the union is your boss and the union says, this is what we want. Look, I don't know what happened in the background, but it just seems to me to be something that needs to be talked about. All the heavies from the CFMEU, I believe John Setger was there. Are you happy with your superannuation? If you've got an industry super fund, do you keep an eye on this kind of thing? Because these people are looking after your money. Just asking. And while I'm venting, Stephen Smith, do you remember him? Former Labour luminary. And I'm not saying that the Liberal Party don't get up to shenanigans as well, but these people are accident prone. Stephen Smith, minister in various Labour governments over many years, currently the Australian High Commissioner in London, refused to attend or acknowledge Australia Day celebrations. What a total disgrace. 95% of Australians are supporters of Australia Day and its date of January the 26th. This posting is going to air on Tuesday. I heard on 3AW yesterday that a new poll, which was small, it was about 1,500 people, was talking about 70% of people support Australia Day and the date of the 26th. And this guy, Smith, he's paid to represent us in Great Britain, not the ideological nonsense of the Labour Party. Stephen Smith should be sacked. And by the way, the date, the 26th of January, is Australia Day, because it was decided that as Australia became an independent nation on the 26th of January 1948, remember the year, 1948, 48, not 1788, 1948, it would be the most appropriate. Look it up. The Nationality and Censorship Act of 1948. That is why we celebrate. And that's why I suspect most people agree. 1/3 of our population, I heard today, 1/3 of our population suffers from loneliness. I find that so hard to believe on a planet with 8 billion people, how anybody could be lonely. But loneliness, we've all suffered from or experienced loneliness. But 1/3 of our population suffers from loneliness. I want to talk to you about that next week. Now we're back on the air live streaming from the 7th of February. Back that first week of February. Some dates. Anniversaries, if it's your birthday or your wedding anniversary, I hope it's just a fantastic day. Here in Adelaide, I don't know, Pete, what would you say? It's warm, it's about 30 degrees, but it's just the most beautiful summer afternoon. And we're recording on a Monday for Tuesday morning, which will be the 14th of January. What can I tell you about the day? 1873 was the year. Celluloid, registered as a trademark by its inventor, one John Wesley Hyatt. Celluloid. 1873. It would have taken them a bit of time after 1873 to actually start doing stuff with celluloid. Wonderful
year.
Why?
The Colt Single Action Army.
Oh, the Colt Single Action Army. All right. Okay. Which I understand Sam Colt never actually got to see.
No, he didn't. No.
Never got to see the revolver that carried his name so famously.
He died before that one came out too.
Conquered the West. 1514, Pope Leo X issues a papal bull against slavery. 1514. Well, that did a lot of good. Anyway, at least he was trying. 1898, Lewis Carroll, English author, Alice in Wonderland. He dies at the age of just 65 on this day in 1898. US President Donald Trump denies that he is a Russian agent. What haven't they accused him of? After the New York Times article states that the FBI started an investigation and the Washington Post raised issues over a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Bloody woke media. That was this day in 2019. Gee, I'd hate to be on that man's hit list. It'd be a hell of a long list, wouldn't it, Pete?
I reckon.
God. Eli Whitney receives the government contract for 10,000 muskets on this day in 1799. That would be the US government. Hugh Lofting, English writer and illustrator, Dr. Dolittle, born in Maidenhead, England in 1886 on this day. He died in 1947. Pope Francis, 84, and Pope Emeritus Benedict, well, Benedict, what was he, the 16th or something like that, received the first dose of the COVID vaccine on this day in 2021. Dorothea Mackellar, Australian poet, My Country, dies on this day in 1968. Gee whiz. Well, she would have been born in the last century, wouldn't she? Mark Antony, Roman politician and general, born in Rome, died 30 AD, born this day in 83 BC. It does get confusing, ladies and gentlemen. 1904, Cecil Beaton, English photographer, especially official photographers or photographs of the royal family, born in Hampstead, England. He died in 1980, born this day in 1904. The Simpsons. You know, I never got The Simpsons, Pete.
No, me neither.
I never got The Simpsons. Or that, what was that other thing, Park? What was that called?
Yes, South Park.
South Park. I never got that either. It must be far too subtle for me.
I'll stick with Pepe Le Pew.
Pepe Le Pew. God bless him. Anyway, The Simpsons premiered 1990. Very successful program. World War II, Franklin D. Roosevelt travels to Miami, from Miami to Morocco, to meet Winston Churchill, becoming the first American president to travel overseas by an aeroplane. Then the Casablanca Conference, as it was called, begins between Winston Churchill, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and other Allied representatives this day in 1943. They had another one in Potsdam, didn't they? Which was most decisive. But there was something about, I guess, meeting in Casablanca that caught their imagination. 1989, 1,000 Muslims burn Salman Rushdie's Satanic Verses in England. In 1989. I don't care whether people burn books, the Nazis burn books or the Muslims burn books. Burning books is a heinous crime. Never should happen. Marilyn Monroe married baseball legend Joe DiMaggio in 1954. Didn't last long, but formal approval for the orders of Templars. The Order of Templars. 1129. You know, the Knights Templar, it's the oldest chivalrous order, knighthood, in the history of the world. It goes back way before St. Michael and St. George. It goes right back to the Crusades. Anyway, I think I probably should leave it there, shouldn't I? Yes, I should leave it there. Before we run out of battery or run out out of tape or run out of your patience. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, our new show, we will be back. We're posting one Facebook posting on a Tuesday morning. It'll be there from 9 o'clock. And our show on Friday around the dining room table, Jeremy Cordeaux live streaming, will be back the 7th of February. But I'll see you next week with another offering on Facebook and on all of the associated podcast avenues. Believe in yourself. Thank you for viewing. Thank you, Peter Clayton. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. Goodbye for now.